Hello everyone, my name is Jesus Daniel Jaramillo and I'm here to talk about CEBA's acquisition of Allied Colloids for my Finance 139 class, Spring 15. So a little bit of background. In 1997 and 1998 there was a bidding war between Hercules, which was a US company, and CEBA, a Swiss company, over Allied Colloids, a British chemical company with poor stock performance. CEBA played a white knight and outbid Hercules to preserve culture of the Allied business. Basically, Hercules' plans, once they were to acquire Allied Colloids, was to fire a lot of the exec members and a lot of the employees. Fortunately, CEBA outbid Hercules with a 1.42 billion offer compared to 1.3 in early 1998, which forced Hercules to withdraw from the race. So, what caused Allied Colloids to become a takeover target? Allied Colloids had a large market share in the specialized chemical industry and great profitability. The specialized chemical industry was hard to get into, which made a merger or acquisition very desirable. Mergers and acquisitions are also easier. There's no need to start from the bottom up, so you can save a lot of money and time. Mergers and acquisitions also help companies basically diversify themselves, their product, their services, and Allied had what was needed for CEBA's vision, their future vision, and it blended in with the culture nicely. The industry was going through a phase of bettering itself and becoming more efficient. Cross-cutting and rationalization was taking place. And Allied Colloids had proof of concept with its company. It just had bad management and bad stock performance, so there was potential. It just had to be shown. So how did CEBA value the gains from the merger of the acquisition? So a lot of the gains and a lot of the value came from the large market share in a hard industry to enter. Like I mentioned before, mergers and acquisitions can save money and time. CEBA also had the intentions of retaining all Allied Colloids business and the pollution control and paper chemicals, so diversifying themselves, their products and their services, as I mentioned before. CEBA saw value in offering more products and services. It also believed in the research and development program that Allied already had in place, which they paid another premium for, making their 1.42 billion a little higher. Forecasted plans of reducing production costs and increasing operating margins from 10 to 18%. So they already had plans in motion to really get some gains from this acquisition, and implementing better management meant better operations, meaning better stock performance. So what effect did the acquisition have on CEBA's balance sheet and performance? A lot of the effects that we researched were short term, and a lot of them were negative compared to positive, which isn't good for CEBA. CEBA's long-term debt increased to 3.65 billion because a lot of it was due to financing the acquisition. Lots of debt makes the company a lot riskier, and it limits their ability to borrow more funds in the future. Price performance reduced equity to 1.3 billion. There was a one-time write-off of 1 billion Swiss francs, and that resulted in the company posting a 791 million net loss. CEBA sales went down 5% by 5%. Because Allied was already down 45%, and because of low sales, velocity was also down 0.12%. We could also measure the cost of the acquisition, or the loss of the acquisition, by subtracting the premium paid from the goodwill. And CEBA received 2.2 billion Swiss francs of goodwill. It costed CEBA 3.6 billion to acquire Allied Colloids, which was a loss of 1.4 billion Swiss francs. But there were also a little bit of pros, not too many compared to cons, but EBITDA was up 8%, net revenues were up 9%, and even though that much debt that they took on was bad, it also reduced their WACC, and then resulting in a positive NPV for the acquisition. Those were pretty much the big time pros of the acquisition, but like I mentioned before, there were a lot more cons, which is not a good deal for CEBA. So now we're going to figure out who won and who lost in this case. So let's start off with Hercules. A lot of people like to say, or I like to believe after what I read, that Hercules both won, is seen as a loser and a winner. It's a loser because it was the first to bid and show interest in Allied, but at the end it was outbid by SIBA, and that forced them to withdraw. But at the same time, it was a winner. As you can see, SIBA had a lot of negatives, and Hercules could have been that company to have that many negatives, and it could have possibly overpaid for the takeover of Allied. It could have possibly raised their bid and compared it, or even outbid SIBA, which would have been bad news for them. So they're both a winner and a loser. CEO David Farrar was a loser. He resigned. He wasn't a loser, but he was in a losing situation. He resigned a year later, and SIBA was also looking to restructure in the same year, 1998, in August, and that put over 1,100 jobs at risk. So you could say the employers were in a losing situation as well. SIBA was seen as both a loser and a winner. A loser because it took on too much debt, too many losses, overpaid for the acquisition. So in the short term, it was a loser. A winner, it entered a tough industry without having to start from the bottom, save time, and like I mentioned before, it reduced its WACC and had a favorable NPV. So more of a short-term loser in SIBA's case. And the ultimate winners were Allied shareholders. The bidding war between Hercules and SIBA resulted in a 90 per share increase, resulting at the end they were left with 205 per share. So they got a pretty hefty gain from the bidding war. And the postscript, basically what happened from the merger, basically what happened from the acquisition till now. SIBA started selling divisions to cut down on debt. They had too many of it. SIBA was given a negative credit outlook in the early 2000s. In 2008, 2009, BASF, which was a high-producing chemical company from Germany, acquired SIBA, and Hercules was also purchased by Ashland Corp around the same time. So yeah, that is my case. Appreciate you listening, and have a great day.